Having very exciting years before this with alternate winnings from the Calcutta and Lucknow teams. So we are sure this one is going to be extra exciting as well. Now, this is of course a family meetup, and being a Martinian, I can't really say I can stop you all from all this, because let's face it, I want to be part of it too. But keep in mind, while everyone is speaking and while everyone is giving their rebuttals, so on and so forth, I'm sure you understand it might be a little disturbing if you'll carry on with it, right? So whatever you have to do, keep it clean, keep it between things, not during the speeches, yeah? So welcome everyone. This is a very exciting year. We have a very exciting topic which will be brought up to you all. It is one of my favorites as well. And we're hoping that after the very exciting morning that we've had so far, that this is going to continue the pacing, right? So I'm not going to take much of your time. I will call upon a very well-known chief guest, or chairperson rather, in the city. She has been our chairperson before, as well as for many very large events in the city, and has done an incredible job. So we definitely could not have her here today. So I'd like to introduce you all to Dr. Surbhi Modi Sahai. Everyone, let's have a big round of applause. So a little bit about Mrs. Sahai. Dr. Surbhi Modi Sahai is an educationist, an entrepreneur, leading the most successful test prep brand in law in the country called Possible Education Private Limited, which runs CLAT Possible and has been doing that in 14 cities pan-India. She is a visiting faculty for film studies in different universities and was nominated for the Fulbright Scholarship in 2009 to the University of California, Davis. She is an alumnus of Hindu College, Delhi University. Her PhD thesis on Shakespeare's adaptations on popular Indian screen is the first full thesis work on Vishal Bharadwaj's works. So you can understand that she is not only scholarly but very, very capable. She is especially trained in history of North Indian universities and as well as filmmaking, as we've mentioned. And her interests include analyzing women's representation on screen. She is a feminist, and most of her work aims at efforts towards gender equality and establishing gender-neutral spaces in cinema, literature, myths, and folklore. So she has a huge job on her shoulders, and yet does an amazing job. So everyone, one more huge round of applause, an amazing chairperson for today. Of course, we also can't have a debate without keeping our time, and as tradition, we have our football secretaries as our timekeepers for the day. So I'd like to call upon Mr. Troy Francis and Mr. K.N. Singh as our timekeepers for today. All right, before I hand it over to Dr. Sahai to introduce our judges and start the proceedings for today, we'll do one thing that is always very important. Timekeepers, can we hear the bell? One more longer one. Teams, did you hear that? Both? Fine. So without further ado, I leave it to Dr. Sahai. It is a family event with the 4 schools across the country. There might be a little bit of family feuding, but don't worry, they know how to behave themselves. So I leave it over to you.
Thank you so much, Craig, for that lovely introduction. Well, I research women on screen, and I have a lot to say about all of that. And life has come full circle as I chair this debate, where both the warring sides are boys. So such is life. Good irony for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the 77th Inter-Martiniere meet. And before I move on to our introductions, I would like to admit that I love debates. They are now fading into this humdrum of a white noise, you know, the AI-enabled white noise. And when I saw the topic for today's debate, I was like, wow, that is great. Because in today's world, we see everyone has so much to say, very little to contribute, and no time to deliberate. So these platforms are, I think, the best platforms where we teach our young ones, our young minds, to think and to argue. And the most important thing about debates is that they teach us time and again, do not raise your voice, improve your argument. So I hope with that spirit, we will have our CalMeet debate today between the two teams. Before I introduce to you the topic for the debate, I would like to extend a warm welcome to a very, very able jury that we have in front of us. We have Dr. Lavi Mehrotra, ladies and gentlemen. She is a renowned gynecologist and obstetrician who has aided hundreds of parents. In fact, as I can see, some of whose kids are probably present in this hall today. So if you were born there, please show of hands. Or if you know someone who was born there, show of hands. She's had I can see some hands. She's had an extensive debate background in her past and previously served as a judge for the Martin Memorial Debate. As a note to the debaters, Dr. Lavi is a surgeon and therefore does not have time for arguments that are purely rhetoric. Make sure your arguments are rooted in facts and have a clear line of reasoning. I'm so sorry if this scares you. So welcome, Dr. Lavi Mehrotra. May we have a huge round of applause. Our next judge for today is my dear friend Aparajita Bansal. I was so happy to see her here. So indeed, it is a family event, as one can see. Ms. Aparajita Bansal is a lawyer with 19 years of practice at the High Court. She has studied at Inter-Martiniere Girls College, Lucknow. She has played cricket at the national level and has served as a level 2 coach at the BCCI from National Cricket Academy, Bangalore. A judge at a debate, a lawyer, and a cricketer. She's been the chairperson for the selection committee for under 19 girls 3 years in a row. She is also a black belt in judo. Should I need assistance today on this stage, I know where it is coming from. And her interests are sports and reading, and I know for a fact singing. So may we have a huge round of applause for Ms. Aparajita Bansal. Our third judge for the day is Mr. Athar Hussain. Mr. Athar Hussain is a writer, a freelance journalist on the panel with leading media outlets of the country on political affairs of Uttar Pradesh. I think you keep very busy, sir. Thank you so much for sparing your time today. We did see political affairs of Uttar Pradesh on the roads today. I think most of our principals and guests were delayed. So, he's the director of Center for Objective Research and Development, a Lucknow-based center to enumerate data and its analysis on socio-economic and political issues of the society. He's also secretary of the Indo-Islamic Cultural Foundation, a trust constituted to build mosques, hospitals, and museums at Dhanipur, Ayodhya, on the directives of the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Welcome, Mr. Hussain. May we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Hussain. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to introduce our side's proposition and opposition for today. Side proposition, Lucknow. The host team is constituted by Mr. Vinayak Tandon, Krishna, Devrat Tandon, and our fourth speaker of the day, Keshav Mittal. I think you all got exhausted with all the sloganeering, did you? Because the clapping is not matching the noise we heard while we were waiting for the debate to start. So may we have a bigger round of applause for side proposition, please. Side opposition, and our guest team for today is from Calcutta, Nikhilesh Mukherjee. I might need your help with your surname, those Arav Bachawat. All right. Arav Bachawat, ladies and gentlemen. Shreyash Ray. And Debarpo Datta. Have I got it right? You can do much better. Children at the back, I think you can do much better. That is side opposition for you, ladies and gentlemen. May we have a thunderous applause. So all our appreciation has to be limited to clapping while our speakers are speaking and at the end of speeches. Of course, you can keep the fun alive as long as you are not sort of disrupting the proceedings on the stage. So yes, clapping is allowed and we should have lots of it while the speeches, not while the speeches are ongoing, but definitely when they have ended. So I would like to read the rules, after which I shall declare the debate open. I think before the debate proceedings on the stage, the host teams had requested the principals of 2 local schools to provide a list of topics, each in sealed envelopes. So I hope the sealed envelopes were open while in front of you. So they were opened in the presence of the teams, and the principals of both the schools had a choice to be present if they so did desire. The visiting team had the privilege of selecting one topic, so the topic we have today has been selected by the visiting team. And of course, I hope you got the decision that you needed to, the time for the decision that you needed. The choice of proposing or opposing the motions were decided by lottery, and I think the host team got the chance to choose. All right. So during the time for preparation, just for your information, judges and the audience, no member of the staff was available. The library and internet facilities were open for both the teams under supervision by neutral authorities and secretaries. The use of mobile phones or other means of communication with the outside world were strictly forbidden. And now I did introduce the teams which comprised 1 principal speaker and 2 supporting speakers. The 4th speakers shall speak at the end of the debate once the judges retire for their decision. The 2 principal speakers shall be allowed 5 minutes to put forward their arguments. A warning bell will be rung 1 minute before the time is up, so at 3 minutes. And then, of course, the speakers would know that they have only 1 minute to sum up. So 4 minutes and then 1 minute, sorry, my bad. The 2 other speakers get 4 minutes, so for them a warning bell will be rung after 3 minutes, and then of course they will have to sum up in the minute after that. The principal speakers from both sides will be summing up the debate. The other 2 speakers can help and aid the main speaker by giving them points. However, no summing up will be done by the other speakers. A warning bell will be rung 1 minute before the time is up, which I have already stated for each speaker. Judges, please note, it was decided that you have to ignore any point made after the time is up. So you do not consider points spoken after the time is up. So we have mutually decided to not cut marks, but we will just ignore the points made afterwards, and we shall keep nudging you to wind up. And maybe after a point, you will stop speaking. At the end of each speech, except the summing up speeches, a period of 2 minutes shall be allotted to each speaker for rebuttal. That is to answer questions by members of the opposing team. So participants, at this point, I would like to address you particularly because I do have some points for rebuttal. Please note that when you are in for rebuttal, the questions must be confined to the substance of the speech that immediately precedes each rebuttal process. So if something has not been spoken by a speaker, you shall not ask questions on that. And participants, please note, you must ask a question. And I define a question as a statement where the verb precedes the subject. So let's hope we hear questions, no commentary, no afterthought, and no opinions. So unless there is a question, I shall not allow it. And if you miss a chance for a question, because you shall get 2 questions, then you miss that chance and the other team gets the points. So please make sure that you ask questions. Before the question, you can have a small summary of the point which you are addressing, but there has to be a statement where the verb precedes the subject. I hope you understand verbs. I hope you understand subjects. So I get a nod from both sides. A maximum of 2 questions shall be asked for each rebuttal. The time for asking the question shall not be counted. The timing shall begin once the speaker answers, which is for the 2 minutes. Of course, there will be no cross-questioning teams. If you are not happy with the answer, if you can discuss that later, but not over here at this forum. So that I have already stated. Although marks are not provided for the questions asked by the opposing speakers, the quality of the question, judges please note, the quality of the question should be taken into account while assessing the overall impression of the team, which has been put in your judges' sheet. Speakers shall be permitted the use of flashcards. I know you're seasoned debaters. Continuous reading, judges please note, has to be penalized. Marks are allotted on content, 20 points, delivery 5 points, argument 5 points, rebuttal 10 points, summing up by the opening speakers 10 points, and general impression of the team, which is 10 points. This is the category where you put the good questions. You think the questions that are good are going to be going in. Also, speakers, please note, you have to address the chair during the rebuttal round. Is that all right with all of you? You have to address the chair. You shall not ask questions saying you. So you have to use either the nouns the speaker said. So the chair has to be addressed during rebuttal rounds, because I can see tempers are flaring and I do not want it to look like a feud that can't be ended. So is that okay with all of you? No use. Let's avoid pronouns. Just say the speaker said this, and the answer has to come to the chair. There is no need to thank each other for the questions. It's all done in competitive spirit. So just come to the question, come to the answer, and that should be good, right? And since I am going to call your name out, you just start your speech. You don't have to go into this whole process of, in reintroducing yourself, which I think if you are at this stage, you are way past that stage of debating. The judges have been briefed on the points. However, content has to be interpreted as the logical development of the idea. Delivery is the clarity of speech. Please ignore any accentuated language or speaking styles or articulation. No marks are given for accent, having it or lack of it, or rolling of your R's. You just have to present your point in a lucid manner, which is the thing that comes to the argument, presentation of a lucid set of ideas, refutation, rebuttal, which means the response to the question. So the judges have to feel the response is good. As I said earlier, if you're not happy with the response, it will have to rest there and then. Summing up means the presentation of the synopsis of the entire case of the team, as well as a refutation of the opposition's argument. So that is defined as summing up. General impressions mean, were the arguments between all the speakers linked? Did they work as a team? Did the team debate, or was it mere elocution? How pertinent, sound, or relevant were the questions asked for rebuttal? So that is general impression of the team. So before I declare the debate open, I think we have a ceremonial proceedings where the two principal speakers exchange batons. So may I invite the two principal speakers from each side? That would be Vinayak Tandon and Nikhilesh Mukherjee. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I declare the 77th Inter-Martiniere Meet debate open. I am really looking forward to this debate, the topic of which reads, Humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence. I repeat, humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence. And with immense pleasure, I invite the first principal speaker from side proposition, Vinayak Tandon, to take the stage.
I'm audible. I'm audible. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic under fire for today's debate is that humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, what is fear? Fear is a feeling that something may go wrong or something dangerous might happen, because of which, as a consequence, we take cautions and precaution for it. Since we are in September, there's a fear that there may be rain, and that's why this debate is being held in a closed hall so that the rain does not affect us, and that's why we have taken a precaution towards something. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is the development of computer systems with the intention to replace human intelligence. There's a difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning, or any other kind of technology, with the idea being stressed on the keywords to replace human intelligence. Today, the burden of the opposition is to prove to you that the idea of fear in today's debate is something that should not exist, and taking precautions for the sole purpose of healthy development of the said factor, artificial intelligence, is a far-fetched concept and is ridiculous. The idea here being that they have to tell you that regulations, things like oversight, should not exist, and we should not fear artificial intelligence a single bit. Today, the burden of proposition is to prove to you, to give you reasons why artificial intelligence should be feared, and as a consequence of it, should not be stopped. Emphasis on the word should not be stopped, but rather developed in a manner that is healthy, developed in a manner which has precautions. Take an approach that is healthy rather than a radical and a haphazard approach. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about the first constructive, that is precaution versus stopping. Today, what the side proposition is advocating for, that we need complete safeguards for the healthy development of artificial intelligence, which do not come into the play till fear of something does not exist. Till fear of being killed does not exist, we do not take safeguards to ensure our survivability. Till fear of anything does not exist, we don't have laws protecting something. The idea here being that artificial intelligence needs to develop in a manner where fear is taken as a factor to give points like precautions, safeguards, and oversight so that it is healthily developed. Ladies and gentlemen, today I may just say that I have a fear of darkness. That does not mean that I will go around illuminating the whole world. Rather, I will take an approach to either take solutions for that fear, or either to take an approach where I can avoid that fear. I have to go to the principal's dinner after all. It's quite important. What is the end purpose of artificial development? A question which the side opposition proposition, the world, the biggest experts will not be able to answer. When we have a specific technology that needs to be developed, we have an end purpose for it. This mic was created for the end purpose of projecting my voice into this hall. The idea that there may be a foam above the actual microphone or a stand that is flexible is a side benefit to it, not the actual purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, today artificial intelligence does not have an actual purpose defined that, okay, it is at this point there will be a full stop, we will stop the advancement, and it has reached this goal. The idea of having something which does not have a full stop is something exactly why we should fear it. In the initial days when social media was used, we did not have the fear of a possibility that it could be used to spread propaganda. It could be used for the purpose of misinformation. The idea being that because we developed that fear, today we have safeguards to ensure that social media develops in a healthy manner. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on, the idea today that the side opposition has to answer is essentially, where does artificial intelligence stop? Why is the advancement of artificial intelligence put to a point that it is not something that can instill fear in us, rather completely healthy? Moving on, when I talk about the point of accessibility and inequality. Today, a parent, a child, whoever it is, if they may enroll in a school, the idea is if the school has the best of facilities, a thing like a computer lab or a sports ground. The point being that as humans, we have the selfish desire that we need to get the best. If artificial intelligence without fear is developed to a point where people of certain sectors have access to it, the idea of monopolization, the idea of it being used to spread propaganda is something that is not at all far-fetched, is something that is a real possibility in even today's world. Big companies using it for their own purpose, people using it to spread misinformation, people are using it to cheat, side opposition, what have you done? The point being that we need to ensure a healthy development, and because of which fear is important. The problems that it causes in today's world is because of which fear is important. Moving on, my second speaker will talk about the idea of misinformation and the deployment of artificial intelligence as a software, and will talk about scientific evidences, how that is replacing humans and making them obsolete. With that, I'm very, very proud to propose. Thank you.
Judges, please note, principal speaker side proposition exceeded the time by 18 seconds. With that, I invite side opposition to rebut.
Chairperson, does the principal speaker of the proposition consider fear an emotional state?
Your time for rebuttal starts.
Madam Chairperson, the very simple answer to that question is that fear is a rationale that humans develop. It is something that we take into account while committing an act to ensure that, okay, it is not dangerous to us. That is the exact point of fear. An emotional state may be a possibility, anything a possibility, but when we talk about something objectively in the sense of technology, it is something that is a rationale. It is something that is sensible to be asked upon. That is the idea of fear here.
May I request the time to, can you pause? No, it's okay. Do you have another question?
Chairperson, ma'am, today, does the principal speaker of side proposition believe that fear in each and every case where it may be developed leads to precautionary measures being adopted as a clear development from the line of fear to precautions?
Madam Chairperson, to answer the question, the principal speaker of the proposition does not also believe that fear being developed ensures that there are no precautions taken. The idea is to have something better than nothing, right? So when we talk about fear, it provides us logic and rationale. What other emotion would you have to prevent something from happening? Anger, that's just weird, honestly. But the point being that when we talk about the idea of fear, it is to tell us, to give us at least a logical reasoning to develop something. Implementation will always be an issue. Don't try to pull this in a parallel debate. However, that rationale and sensitivity of fear that is instilled in humans is the exact reason why we should fear artificial intelligence, because of the stance that is being proved by the side proposition. Thank you.
So we have exhausted the two rebuttal questions. So it was 2 minutes or two rebuttal questions. So we will rest the principal speaker's side proposition speech here. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, may I have a huge round of applause for this lovely round of rebuttal. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for, you have a question? Yes. I'm so sorry. Yes, that is fine as long as you are not addressing each other, because that appears to be a little rude. And it's a very lonely job here as a chairperson, so it feels very nice if you can just address something towards me and rather than the judges. So that's this thing. But this is very, very good. It is a great example of how you can argue without even addressing the arguer. And I think TV channels should learn from this forum that leave alone abuse the arguer. You can not address the arguer and still answer questions and be logical. Thank you so much for following these rules, ladies. I mean, both of you are exceptional. So keeping this spirit alive of logical argument, we move on to our principal speaker side opposition. It is my immense pleasure to invite Nikhilesh Mukherjee to take the podium.
Am I audible? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing humanity should fear is the lack of logic inside proposition's argument. Ladies and gentlemen, since the word fear has been thrown around so casually by the proposition, let me begin the opposition's case by defining what fear actually means. Ladies and gentlemen, fear is not the approach of caution, is not the approach of rationale that a scientist takes while conducting an experiment. Fear is not the approach that a lawyer takes when framing their case in a courtroom. Fear is not the case of a precaution that a surgeon takes while conducting a complex surgery. If we are to accept this definition of fear that side proposition has put forward to base their case, we would be saying that surgeons who perform surgeries are scared because they take precautions. They feel fear because they take precautions. That is not fear. Ladies and gentlemen, fear, as defined in the Oxford Dictionary, the Cambridge Dictionary, or any psychology journal, is an emotional state of disturbance which is created by a threat. Fear is an emotional state that pushes your logic to the back seat. Ladies and gentlemen, today Karl Marx had left us by saying that a thinker's job is to interpret the world. The point of a revolutionary is to change it. I would like to thank the speakers on the proposition, because I thought the point of a debater was to interpret the motion. Side propositions thinks it is to change it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to what this motion essentially asks. Today, what they have said and what is not really relevant to the debate is that AI has a technology, has both good sides and a bad side. What we are debating is what should humanity's reaction to the issue of artificial intelligence be. Today's side proposition will have you believe that if you're walking a tightrope, the best way to walk that tightrope is to have fear of plunging the 100 meters below. What we on side opposition are here to tell you is that no, caution is separate from fear. Thoughtful and careful analysis only happens when logic takes the front seat. The moment you are in a state of fear, logic takes the back seat, and your emotional disturbance as a result of that fear compromises on logic and proper analysis of that situation. The only way to cross that tightrope effectively is to take fear out of the equation and depend on logic, careful analysis, and rational thought, none of which fall under the domain of fear. Another clarification that I would like to make, ladies and gentlemen, is that today we are not debating what is the most probable reaction that humanity can have. We are not here to say that it is a natural response of a human to feel fear. The motion uses the word should, and as the lead speaker of the opposition, since this duty has been failed by my previous speaker, let me define should. Should means the ideal case, should means what is the optimal response humanity should take. And an optimal response, ladies and gentlemen, to a problem like advances in artificial intelligence, which is such a problem of global scale, of complexity, because it deals with technology beyond the understanding of the common man, cannot be dealt with by humanity, which is represented collectively in this motion. And especially the policy makers who act on behalf of that humanity while acting in a state of fear. You would not trust a surgeon who is scared of you dying. You would not trust a lawyer who is scared of the judge. You would trust someone who does take cautions but is not in a state of fear. And I hope you'll agree with me on that point. Ladies and gentlemen, the other thing is that advances as a whole has been considered in the sweeping generalization that this motion gives to us. Today, we on side opposition are here to tell you that technology has both good sides and bad sides. That is how the case has always been. Man is not going to create a suicide pill for himself and then going to ingest it. Technology has both good and bad sides. To fear it would be to take away the ability of us to utilize the good side, to utilize the side that allows us to map areas which are compromised due to environmental disasters by implementing AI in our visual systems. Being scared of AI will take away our ability to use the good and will also take away our ability to deal with the bad. Ladies and gentlemen, today, if you are to believe that the books as a technology or the printing press is good or bad, then if we think that books like the Mein Kampf which incite violence are bad, we are also going to be scared of the book as a whole. We are going to be scared of the Bible, the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita. And if you believe religion is the root of evil, you would be scared of the Richard Dawkins God delusion, which taught you that. Ladies and gentlemen, today we believe that fear is the base primal instinct on which we cannot rely. Time and time again, we have seen humanity fall prey to this. Even when we deal with something that is all bad, let's take the extremity. When we deal with something like the COVID-19, what does fear do? It takes people, inject sanitizers into themselves. It makes people kill people who they suspect of having COVID-19. Fear is not the option. Caution is the option. My second speaker and third speaker will elaborate this. My third speaker will talk about the Salem witch trials. My second speaker will lay down the basis of the gravity and the complexity of the situation and how fear or a casual, irrational response cannot be the way ahead. A proper response is the way ahead. Thank you.
Judges, please note, principal speaker of side opposition exceeded the time limit by 19 seconds. I think a lot is yet to be said on this topic as we see the principal speaker struggling to keep within time. Such is the topic for the day. So now I invite side proposition for rebuttal, and we have our first question.
Madam Chairperson, does the speaker believe that being fearful is synonymous to being scared?
Your time begins.
Madam Chairperson, as a speaker of the English language, I do believe that having fear and being scared of something are synonyms. Fear is the noun, as you said, while telling us how to ask questions. Scared is the verb.
We have our second question, as I can see. Would you like to use the podium?
Madam Chairperson, the speaker mentioned about the idea of how essentially during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, people were injecting sanitizers in themselves. Would the speaker agree that even during that time, a lot of misinformation and false news was spread by technology like artificial intelligence? And because of a lack of carefulness, that expanded, and that's why we reached a level where we now have fact checkers on every social media platform.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I see a lot of applause. I don't see why. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what we are saying. There is fear. There was fear, which is what led to an extreme reaction like the spreading of misinformation. What we suggest is exactly what the questioner told us. There should be caution. There should be people who are fact checkers and check that knowledge. Fact checkers, ladies and gentlemen, do not act on fear. They act on caution. They act on time. They act on careful and logical analysis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have now principal speakers for both side opposition and proposition. And as we can see, much is still left to be said on this very, very profound topic that is something that we are always talking about and cautioning and fears. We do seem to know our nouns from our verbs by now. I hope you do too, audience, because I have been given that back while I tried to explain the verbs and the nouns to the teams. So with that, and we've seen some very incisive arguments, we move on to the second speaker, side proposition, Krishna, who will now take the podium. Thank you so much. Whenever the speaker is ready.
I hope I'm audible. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, a debate is never black and white. But what side opposition has done so far is give us the most polarized, most extreme end view of the current topic at hand. Now, allow me to clarify exactly what I mean by that. Members of the House, fear is not always irrational. Fear is something that developed as a survival instinct. Fear in itself arose out of a danger, the fear of the unknown, the fear that something could go wrong, and therefore caution is a sub-cause that appears out of fear. If I don't fear something, I would never take caution for the same. And that is something that side opposition fails to realize. They come here and advocate for caution while dealing with artificial intelligence. And on the contrary, they come and tell us that fear is not needed, while the two of them cannot exist individually. Now, members of the House, allow me to tell you exactly why we have to fear artificial intelligence and therefore not to hinder its growth, not to scrap artificial intelligence, rather to approach it more carefully in such a fashion that we ensure that it does not harm us. Members of the House, let's first talk about the permanence factor that comes with artificial intelligence and technology of whatever sort we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to realize that if something is out on the internet, if something is out in the entire world, no matter how much you try, you can never take it back. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Members of the House, we have seen it multiple times, artificial intelligence fail. We have seen how ChatGPT started teaching people how to make bombs, how to produce drugs in their own houses. And swiftly, the developers made changes, made advancements that these things are not produced further. However, what side opposition fails to realize is that this is not the cure. These things are now out in the world and there are multiple ways to bypass these safeguards and finally make AI do the harmful thing that they don't want artificial intelligence to do. Ladies and gentlemen, the most basic fundamental, a saying that our parents have said ever since time immemorial is prevention is better than cure. But what side opposition is advocating for is first let the entire world burn, we'll concern ourselves about the well-being of people later. Because in the end, they have not given us a single constructive so far that what is wrong in fearing and what is wrong in taking caution because of this fear. All they have come here and done is A, ad hominem, B, strawman fallacy. Both very common fallacies, but instead of telling you about them, I'll tell you about what's wrong with their case. Secondly, members of the House, I will tell you about misinformation and accountability. Another instance where AI has failed time and time again. Another instance why we should fear AI. Members of the House, problems happen because we don't take caution. They have already acknowledged the good and bad of technology. And now, after that, they come and say, we have to advocate the bad aspects entirely, and now all of a sudden everything is fairies and butterflies, no fear exists, there is no problem. You want caution but you don't want fear. Two things that are synonymous to each other, something that runs contradictory, and I hope side opposition realizes before their next speaker comes up. And now, members of the House, let's talk about brain capacity of a person. It has been proven by Oxford, Cambridge, and in universities that I could list but would end my time, that humanity is having a problem of brain shrinking. All that is happening because we are over dependent on technology. We are limiting our functioning to what we have to do and what AI can't do. And as soon as AI is able to do this thing, we'll simply stop working at all. We are decapacitated without the technology, and that is why AI is driving us to fear, and that is why we must fear advancements in artificial intelligence. Thank you. I'm very proud to propose.
Judges, please note, second speaker side proposition exceeded the time by 16 seconds. And after that, now with that, I would like to open the House for rebuttal. Side opposition.
Madam Chairperson, my question to the second speaker is, does the speaker believe that as the motion states, we should fear advances? Should humanity fear all advances in artificial intelligence?
Madam Chairperson, as I've already mentioned in my speech, it is yet another instance of polarization. They are all only operating on the factors that A, everything has to be checked, or B, nothing has checked. They are not considering the middle spectrum, that we can fear where AI can go wrong. All they are saying is that there are only two options. A, there is no fear. B, we fear everything. But members of the House, a life lesson, that is not how this works. Members of the House, again, coming back to the same thing, fear is a survival instinct. We fear what has the potential to harm. I hope that answers Speaker's question, Madam Chairperson.
Madam Chairperson, does the speaker believe that acknowledging the possibility of danger and fear are the same thing?
Yes, you may begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have emphasized time and time again how fear is a survival instinct, how fear allows us to prevent mishappenings. While yes, the nature factor comes into play, in the end what fear gives us is a feeling that something bad might arise out of it, and therefore I approach something with caution, and that is what side proposition is advocating for, and that is what side opposition has been ignoring. I hope that answers Speaker's question, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was second speaker, team proposition in front of you. And now I'm sure we are all waiting to hear the second speaker, side opposition, Arav Bathawat. The podium is all yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, René Descartes once said, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. However, according to the definition of fear given to us by proposition, where fear is rational, man exists because man fears. And that is the crux of proposition's case today. Greetings to one and all present here today. The motion presented to us today reads, humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence. The chairperson ma'am said that there is too much to contribute and too little time to deliberate. That is what the state of the world shall be if we consider fear to be the course of action we must adopt to tackle the challenges posed to us by artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. As the second speaker of opposition, I shall prove to the House how fear clouds our sense of judgment, how fear incapacitates us, how in the presence of fear as a primal emotion, humanity cannot act rationally. Before that, a few important areas we must focus on. This motion demands addressing humanity as a collective. As the first speaker of side opposition explained, humanity includes all the policymakers. It includes all the spectrum, all the stratas of society at large. Today, when we look at the word should, we must understand what is the best way to reacting to the challenges posed to us, responding to the challenges posed to us by artificial intelligence, and not what one might do in the most probable case. Ladies and gentlemen, today when we act out of fear, looking at the challenges posed to us by artificial intelligence, we forego the fundamental attribute that makes human beings, separate human beings from animals, that is careful thought, critical analysis. What opposition believes is, yes, we agree that there are certain dark sides to artificial intelligence, but the extremely polarized idea of artificial intelligence that the proposition has given to us today, stating a possible takeover where artificial intelligence, the name of which is artificial in the first place, shall take over the human psyche, shall take over the human ability to think, is not what is the case. To tackle this challenge posed by artificial intelligence effectively, we must use critical thinking, weighing in the possibilities. Today, if we simply act out of fear, which is a primal emotion according to proposition itself, we can create chaos in this world. Because when humans act out of fear, as we have explained, they forego rationality. Because the fundamental purpose of fear, which they failed to explain today, is to alleviate the stress, the discomfort you are in at present and to relieve yourself of it. This motion has gravity. This motion is of great complexity for mankind at large. It demands a long-term solution that is good for society at large. It demands societal deliberation, collaboration. Fear is individualistic. It is reductionist. It does not take in the societal perspective into mind. Therefore, I believe when we act out of fear, we forego the societal responsibility this motion lays upon us, that is the collective benefit of humanity. And fear is not equal to rationale. Rationale and fear are two different things. And fundamentally, an overtaking of humanity as the driving seat of civilizational progress is a far-fetched idea that proposition is pressing today. To conclude, in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, Alice slipped through the rabbit hole once. Every time today that proposition has made a statement, they have slipped into the rabbit hole. Thank you. Proud to oppose.
Judges, please note, second speaker, side opposition, exceeded the time limit by 10 seconds. So, we are going through such an immersive state in this debate, as now the second speaker's speech is over. I think the norm for the debate is that the time is going to be exceeded. I do not know how the judges are handling that, but so far so good. From my side, I do not mind the time getting exceeded because I would like to hear the end of their arguments. With that, I open the floor for rebuttal, and side proposition may ask their questions.
Madam Chairperson, a very simple question. Does the speaker believe fear is always irrational?
Madam Chairperson, I would agree with proposition, but then both sides would be wrong. What we believe is that fear is different from rationale fundamentally, because the equation that proposition is working on today is that it is fear that leads to preemptive measures. It is fear that is equal to caution. Caution and fear are two fundamentally different things. Caution is born out of critically analyzing the threats present and formulating an effective solution. Fear is a knee-jerk response to the problem at hand for your individual reductionist benefits, and this motion demands societal benefit and a collective coming together of humanity.
Do we have another question from side proposition?
Madam Chairperson, does the speaker believe it is not plausible for humans to be fearful of the 0.01% possibility of an AI advancement going wrong?
I agree. This debate is not about plausibility or what humans tend to do or will tend to do. It is about what humans should do. What humans should do ideally for the advancement of society. And fearing the prospects posed by artificial intelligence will essentially inhibit us recognizing the benefits it brings about with us. Because when we fear something, we have the tendency to reject it or try to eliminate it. Because if we consider something to be a threat to the very existence of mankind, you cease to acknowledge the infinite potential that artificial intelligence brings with it. Thank you. Very, very proud to oppose.
Thank you so much. Second speaker, side opposition. And now the onus of the debate falls entirely on the shoulders of the third and final speakers for the day. And I take this opportunity to invite on stage Devarth Tandon, third speaker, side proposition.
Am I audible? Starting in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been sitting in this hall for nearly 1 hour. All the side opposition has done is present a blatant mischaracterization of facts and present a flagrantly wrong interpretation of the topic at hand. A very good evening to everyone present here. My name is Devat and I stand here as a third speaker of side proposition. Allow me to reiterate the topic at hand for the 5th time because apparently the side opposition did not seem to hear it the first 4. The topic at hand talks about humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence, and I repeat, should fear advances in artificial intelligence. The entirety of side opposition's case has hinged on one thing and one thing only, is that they want to drive the House into a parallel debate. On one end, they say that fear is only irrational. On the other end, they say that caution should be there. Ladies and gentlemen, this very fact that they refuse to acknowledge is that fear and caution always go hand in hand. If there is no fear, how do you expect there to be caution? Let's say I am scared and I have a fear of dying in a fiery car crash. What do? Do I never step foot into a car again? No, ladies and gentlemen, what I do is I follow cautionary measures. What I do is when I step into the car, I wear a seat belt. I follow road regulations. Instead of driving at a speed of 200 miles per hour, I drive at the speed limit of 50 miles an hour. What the side opposition has done is present a polarized view, and in doing so, they have contradicted themselves multiple times. Principal Speaker of side opposition came up and said, and I quote, "Fear is an emotional state." Yes, I agree on that, Mr. Speaker. Fear is indeed an emotional state. But this emotional reaction is a reaction. The action to that fear is the caution which we must exercise when we talk about advances made by artificial intelligence. And again, I'd like to reiterate, the topic at hand talks about fear in advances of artificial intelligence. What side opposition has done is try to mislead and confuse the House by telling you about the pros and cons, the negatives and the positives about artificial intelligence itself. Moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, the principal speaker of side opposition told us that acting in a state of fear can have negative effects. On the contrary, allow me to give you an example. If I am afraid of something, my first instinct will either to be run away from that thing or deal with that thing. The flight or fight response, as it is called. In both those cases, I exercise caution. If I choose flight, I exercise caution, I avoid the problem and I run away. If I choose fight, I exercise caution, I deal with the problem and then I solve the problem. Moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, the second speaker of side opposition came up here and said, and I quote, "Man fears, so man is." Again, yes, I agree. You are once again proving our point. Ladies and gentlemen, fear is the very basic evolutionary concept. Without fear, humans would never have been able to evolve into what they are today. Consider the example of a lion and a deer in the wild. A lion is afraid that he, if does not kill and catch the deer, might die of starvation. A deer is afraid if he does not run fast enough, he might be killed by the lion. That inherently proves our case. All the side opposition has done is try to drive the House into a parallel debate, and in doing so, they have proved our case time and time and time again. Ladies and gentlemen, the entirety of side opposition's case can be summed up into 3 points. Fear is only irrational. Fear and caution are not the same. And how we should respond to fear does not depend on the actual fear itself, and they are different things. That is it. They have not provided us with any concrete constructive as to why their side of the motion is true, which is why we take this clash today. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would just like to point out that the clear lack of constructives in the side opposition's case is characterized by the fact that they come up here and resort to snarky remarks and insults directed at side proposition, which clearly indicates that today we take this debate and which clearly indicates that today the motion completely passes. With that, I rest my case and I'm very proud to propose.
Judges, please note, third speaker, side proposition exceeded the time by 33 seconds. So So the norm continues, and now I open the floor for rebuttals.
Madam Chairperson, does the third speaker of the proposition believe that the common man is scared of getting into a car, or is the common man scared of the fire that happens in a car crash?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. To answer that question, I would like to simply say that again in this question, the speaker is trying to divide the house into two polar opposites, black and white, yes and no, true and false. Ladies and gentlemen, as the second speaker of our side already mentioned, the debate is not about these extremes, and the side opposition is completely ignoring the middle part of the spectrum. So, to briefly answer that question, both the cases are true. If I have a fear of the fire which follows the car accident, of course I will have the fear of getting into the car because that might cause the car accident. That is how basic human psyche works.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, the speaker said how fear is an emotional state. Does the speaker believe that emotionality and rationality go hand in hand?
Madam Chairperson, to simply answer the question, emotionality and rationality can go hand in hand. Emotionality and even irrationality can go hand in hand. It depends on your perspective. Perspective of side proposition is that we should consider every aspect of humanity, whether it is the complete opposite ends of the spectrum being talked about by opposition, or it is the middle part of the spectrum. That is my simple answer to you, and I hope that answers your question.
All right, even though it is irrelevant, but we did have to not use the second person pronouns. No worries. Now we move to the third and final speech for the day, not just the third speaker for side opposition, but the final speaker for the part of the debate that will be judged.
Ladies and
Minus the
gentlemen,
summing up. I'm so sorry. Minus the summing up speeches. So that is Shreyas Ray. Yes, you may begin.
ladies and gentlemen, let me summarize side proposition's case very simply. The Indian Army acknowledges that there exists a possibility of an invasion, that is danger, from Pakistan. Therefore, the Indian Army is afraid of Pakistan. That is the logic that side proposition brings forward today. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is today, the side proposition is merely afraid, that is, they are fearful of actually interpreting and reading the motion and what this motion puts forward today. Now, the only contention, I believe, in this debate is that fear inspires caution, as is being said by side proposition. Now, where comes in my rebuttal? My rebuttal is based on the fact, and it is to dispel the notion that fear can lead to precaution, or in any way, those two things are correlated whatsoever. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is fear? Let us understand this emotional reaction that we have. When we are afraid of something, when we fear something, what does it do within us? It is an irrationality which exists, which causes us to not look at the problem from an unbiased perspective. We have a biased perspective to the problem, therefore we cannot understand or truly interpret what the problem, whether a problem exists, what the problem is, and whether the problem is relevant and how to solve it. Let me provide a very simple example, a very simple thought. Take, for example, the Inter-Martiniere debate team was facing a very formidable opponent. Now, I'm not saying that's us, but let's suppose. Now, if that was the case, would Inter-Martiniere, or that is side proposition, want to be afraid of their opponents, which clouds their judgment, which inhibits them from making proper arguments on stage? Or would they rather critically analyze the arguments made and provide rebuttal to it? Any logical individual, any debater would clearly say that the best approach is the second approach, where you look at things logically without any aspect of fear. You are cautious of what your opponents might say on stage. However, you're not fearful of what they might say. Now let us look at another example of and exactly how fear and caution are unrelated, and fear leads to extreme responses, which is highly detrimental. Let me talk about the Salem witch trials. In the 16th century, the men in the Boston County were afraid that women would take their places in society. That women, due to gaining education, would replace them and get into positions of power. That's why what did they do? They massacred each and every individual, each and every woman who they viewed to be a threat, each and every woman who was getting educated. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what fear leads to. Let us not delve into the hypotheticals of the world that side proposition is presenting to us, that fear can lead to precaution. There does not exist a single case, a single example in this real world in which we exist. There exists no logic which leads to this conclusion. Their entire argument is based on one presumption, one supposition they've made. And this is the fact that fear will necessarily lead to precaution. However, they've given no reason for this to occur so. The only example they've provided is that of a car crash. Now let us talk of a car crash. If I get into a car and I'm afraid of a car crash, that does not inhibit me from getting into a car. These are two completely distinct things. Secondly, what we must understand is that today we are not talking about what is a natural human reaction. We are not talking about what humans tend to do, because what humans tend to do is clearly visible from the Salem witch trials. What we are talking about is that fear, when it comes in as an emotional response, clouds this ability of humanity to judge properly the situations. Now, let me prove this with another example. Let us talk about individualism versus collectivism. What this motion demands from us, since it talks about humanity, it is a collective response. Now, what do we understand by this collective response? Fear is an individual trait. Each and every individual is fearful of something else, and the conclusion of their fear is distinct. However, when you're talking about the collective, why humanity cannot resort to fear is the reason that fear, when it takes over a collective, it can lead to chaos and different interpretations from each and every individual, which will lead to chaos. Here I would like to rest my case, but not my stance. Thank you.
Judges, please note, third speaker, side opposition, exceeded the time by 17 seconds. And with that, we move into rebuttal.
Madam Chairperson, according to the speaker, what actually drives caution and precautionary measures if it is not the fear of negative consequences and retaliation?
Thank you for that question. Madam Chairperson, to answer that question, what drives precautions to be taken is an acknowledgement that there may be some danger or there is something that needs to be done. For example, if I acknowledge the danger of perhaps getting into a car crash, that does not make me fearful of getting into a car. What it leads to is in fact me taking precautionary measures. And when can I actually take suitable precautionary measures? It is when I analyze a problem. It is when I understand the problem. It is when I understand the gravity of the situation, and according to that I can take measures. Let us take an example. Let me again refer to what I said in my speech. What fear leads to is an irrational thought, such as the Salem witch trials, where we do not even interpret the problem accurately. What drives caution and precaution is an accurate interpretation of the problem, is an analysis of the problem, and not fear and not irrational emotions. Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, could the Speaker provide the House with one good example where you could exercise caution without fear?
Madam Chairperson, I believe the best example for this is artificial intelligence itself. Because what does fear lead to? Fear leads to us thinking that artificial intelligence is inherently bad. It leads to a problem where we try to suppress any form of discussion on this issue because we are merely fearful of it. What I propose and what side opposition proposes is that when we look at artificial intelligence, when we look at advances in artificial intelligence, we look at the advances logically, analytically, where we look at the facts, where we look at what it may lead to, and this does not involve fear in any respect. Once we acknowledge the possibilities, we can tend to avoid these possibilities by merely exercising precaution through understanding the gravity of the situation, which again, let me say for one more time, does not require fear. It requires the acknowledgement of certain issues and a basic ability to understand.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the third speaker, side opposition. And with that, we come to an end of a lively round of rebuttals. And I propose that we move into summing up. And to sum up side opposition, I invite on stage the principal speaker, side opposition,
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are not debating the fear of a human when he sees a tiger. We are not debating the fear of a human of a fire in a car crash. We are debating the fear of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, every single example that side proposition has brought up in this debate, and note this well, rests on individual reactions to situations. The very first word in this motion, ladies and gentlemen, is humanity. We are not debating whether an individual should be scared. We are debating whether it is the best course of action for humanity as a whole to be scared. For humanity, which has to together grasp the problem of artificial intelligence, for humanity, which has to together draft policies to combat the problem of artificial intelligence, whether it is the should or the optimum and the best course of action for humanity collectively to be in a state of fear and to be scared. I believe, as a representative of the common man, that this is not the case. Ladies and gentlemen, what have we got from side proposition? To quickly sum up the arguments, we have got a basic chain of logic. In the world in which side proposition lives, perhaps the page C and page F of the dictionaries are together because caution and fear have become synonyms. Ladies and gentlemen, thinking that something can go wrong is fear, and fear leads to caution. If I can break this chain of logic, proposition's case does not stand. Thinking that something can go wrong does not mean that you are feared, that you are in a state of fear. Ladies and gentlemen, in fact, what has been blatantly ignored by the proposition is that we are not even debating whether something can go wrong. We are not debating. The motion does not say humanity should fear artificial intelligence causing doom. The motion, in other words, it doesn't say that humans should fear a car crash which leads to a fire where they get burnt. The motion says humanity should fear the very idea of getting into a car. Humanity should fear, to put it in the context of this debate, the very concept of advances in artificial intelligence. We are not talking about the 0.01% possibility that they brought up. We are talking about the generalization of the advances in artificial intelligence as a whole. This debate isn't even about things going wrong. It is about the things themselves. And even if we consider things going wrong, the very idea that things may go wrong does not mean that you are scared of the concept as a whole. Their entire argument is based on the result of advances. The motion talks about advances in general. Ladies and gentlemen, thinking that something may go wrong is not fear. According to that logic, a surgeon who thinks the operation may go wrong is scared of the operation. An army person who thinks that their operation may fail is scared of fighting in the first place. If we are to propose this motion, we cannot simply take the convenient task of equating fear and caution, of equating an emotional stance with a logical belief and then proceeding from there. Ladies and gentlemen, today the first speaker from side proposition came and said that fear is rational, fear is irrational. The third speaker said fear may be rational, fear may be irrational. Ladies and gentlemen, when we are debating the optimum course of something, why would we choose fear, which may be rational or irrational, when we have the ability to choose something called the rational mode of thinking, which is in all cases rational? If you can give me a good reason for choosing something which is accurate, even if we take the best case of it being sometimes rational 50% of the time, why would we choose that over something that can be rational 100% of the time? If their task was to prove that fear is the ideal case, they have said that fear only partly works. What we have said on opposition is something else. Fear in itself has the capacity to turn into mass hysteria. Instead, we should take careful thinking. Let me go speaker by speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, the second and third speaker spoke about the survival instinct. Survival instinct is what man thinks first. It is not what man should ideally think. According to the survival instinct, if I'm angry at someone, my survival instinct may be to go and kill that person. However, it is not the ideal course of action for me to take. In fact, the very reason why we are using humanity should fear and not animals should fear is because humanity and animals are separated by their very ability to control their base instincts. It is what sets apart humanity, and it is what enables us to address the problems effectively. The second and third speaker accused us of using ad hominem remarks. We have not done that. We have stuck to the motion. In fact, it was the lead speaker of the proposition who accused us of cheating and using ChatGPT. Ladies and gentlemen, what I want to sum up by saying is all that side opposition has told you in this debate is basic English. Fear and caution are not the same thing. Emotion and logic are not the same thing. If humanity is to deal with a collective problem effectively, humanity needs to rely on logic and rationality and not fear and phobia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was side opposition. With that, they rest their case. And now I invite principal speaker, side proposition. The stage is all yours. Oh, there was a... May I request principal speaker, side proposition, to just give me a minute to announce the timing. Judges, please note the summing up of side opposition exceeded the time by 23 seconds. 23 seconds. Yes, you may begin now.
I agree, side opposition. That was new. That was not you, which was the formidable team. It was Inter-Martiniere girls we faced in Martin Memorial debate. But keeping that aside, today what the side opposition came up here and went with their debate. Fear is, and count me here, disturbance, incapacitance, stress, discomfort, threat to existence, an emotional state of disturbance which they were well not sure about themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, today the side proposition had a blatant mischaracterization of what fear is and essentially defeated the argument that yes, if there's fear, one cannot think logically and rationally. Ladies and gentlemen, I am fearful of losing. Am I not thinking logically and rationally? Don't answer that. Today, a person who goes to an exam does have fear of giving that exam. Does that person not think logically and rationally? Ladies and gentlemen, everything tends to affect us. We are, after all, emotional beings. But the idea that fear does not lead to a reaction that is caution is frankly ridiculous. Today, the side proposition proved to you how both are linked, and therefore, if we presented effective points which told us how artificial intelligence is something that could be feared, it is well enough reason for it to be cautious against. Today, the side opposition came up here and tried to drive this debate into a parallel debate by essentially just talking about how fear either equates to caution or fear does not equate to caution, and definitely missed their burden of proving how artificial intelligence should not be feared because of what artificial intelligence is. Rather, they came here and tended to accept how it is a problem, how certain things which are wrong happen because of artificial intelligence. And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly the point that the side proposition is proving. If there are things that are happening wrong, we need to fear against them and thus develop caution. The idea of it being characterized just as an emotional state of disturbance, I have no words. Moving on, when we talked about the idea of evolution and man does exist because man survives, the side opposition's principal speaker just said, no, that is not an ideal thought. Ladies and gentlemen, as a student of biology, it pains me to know that they don't know how basic evolution works. It is literally the survival of the fittest. As we evolved from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, the Neanderthals to Homo sapiens, it is literally the survival of the fittest, and that fear is what causes a survival instinct in us. Moving on, they mentioned how a scientist working on something does not have fear. A surgeon does not have fear while operating on a patient. As a person who's a son to a surgeon for the last 16 years, I can tell you for a fact that fear is always a factor when you have an open body in front of you. The idea of whether you let that fear affect you is different, or rather, if you take that fear, convert something useful out of it, which you did not do out of your stage fright, and actually do something productive. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, they mentioned about the idea of how artificial intelligence would essentially cause doom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not living in a dystopian scenario. We are saying, yes, it should advance. We are saying, okay, maybe it will help in some ways. But the cons outweigh the pros right now, and therefore we have fear against it, or rather we should have fear against it, and we are not talking about how it should be definitely full stop. Moving on, when I talk about the idea of how the side how the side opposition tried to drag this debate into the idea of what humanity is versus what individualistic thought is, and how fear is individualistic. Ladies and gentlemen, the problem again still here is that they're trying to run a parallel debate by proving what is different in terms of definition rather than proving their burden, which tells us how exactly artificial intelligence is something which causes a problem. We should have fear against it, because of which there is a cautionary reaction to that fear. Today, the side proposition came up here and presented constructives that tell us how artificial intelligence is essentially a problem in today's society, which even they acknowledge to some extent, and that is why we need to have fear against it. The idea of propaganda, inequality, monopolization, fake information. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you for a fact that ChatGPT involved, which started as a chatbot, has now touched the idea of using the camera and microphone of your phone, going from 1 cent to 3 cents. And again, as the principal speaker of the proposition mentioned, there is no end to where artificial intelligence is. How do you fear something that you do not know where it ends? Moving on, I'm going out on a leg here, but I would like to contradict the chairperson a bit. Side opposition, if you could not have raised your arguments, at least you could have raised your voice. Thank you so much, and I am very, very proud to propose.
Judges, please note, the summing up of side proposition exceeded the time limit by 7 seconds. At this stage, we would have to request the judges to recede into the staff room. The judges now have a very grueling session ahead of them. They are supposed to decide whether the motion has been passed or has been defeated. After such a profound and invigorating session, we have come to the conclusion that lucidity of thought, immaculately articulated ideas, and the profundity of facts, and the sturdiness of the argument does not mean that you need to attack each other. Of course, you can attack the chairperson, as we did see. But in no way is the ferociousness of your arguments lessened or scathed by not addressing each other. And we've seen a great and exemplary example of it here today. So may we have a thunderous round of applause for both side proposition and opposition. And the fun fact is, in spite of all the time limits that have been exceeded, we still have 2 speeches left. The 4th speaker of side proposition will now take the stage. Keshav Mittal, the stage is yours.
I hope I'm audible. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic being read multiple times, I directly move on to my constructives. First of all, there exists a difference between objectivity and subjectivity. Objectivity means something that is either black or white, something that is true or false. Am I wearing a coat right now? Yes. Was the opposition fishy today? Yes. Will we have dinner after the debate? Yes. Whereas, ladies and gentlemen, being subjective is being relative, being dependent on a person's opinion, person's judgment, his arguments. This is what causes a debate, ladies and gentlemen, and not what the side opposition did throughout the course of proving fear as something bad, something irrational, something that is harmful for the entire society. Ladies and gentlemen, their definition of fear today made me fear the absence of context in a debate. Because while we provided you with context throughout the course of the debate, the side opposition, the only job they embarked on was conning you with all the text in the world today. Ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is the need of fear? The need of fear, going by an analysis by the very Oxford University, is survival. What fear essentially does is motivates us to implore caution, to implore preventive measures, and therefore safeguard ourselves, our interests, and our survival as a human species. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate today was about precaution versus stopping. it was intentional that the motion did not have the word stop, but actually fear in it, because fear is what motivates caution. Ladies and gentlemen, for example, if I have the fear of darkness and I have to go to the principal's dinner, I will obviously not illuminate each and every corner of this beautiful palace. Instead, I'll either carry a torch or a flashlight with me or have some other solution to go there. Ladies and gentlemen, secondly, what is the end purpose of AI? It is something that I can't tell you, neither can my teammates or even the judges, because artificial intelligence replaces human intelligence. Human intelligence, in a nutshell, is not constant. It is dynamic. It changes, evolves with the passage of time. Therefore, artificial intelligence also evolves with the passage of time. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, what we also proved to you today was how it will widen the societal inequalities. I come from a privileged background to have attended Inter-Martiniere for 14 years of my life. Similar does the members of the opposition today. However, a child sitting outside the footpath today will not have that opportunity. Similarly, he will also not have the opportunity to access artificial intelligence. Irrespective of whatever benefits it may harbor, the child will still not be able to utilize it for his potential, his efficiency today. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the side opposition today seem to have an untoward fascination with childhood characters and tales, which we don't. Well, actually I do, which is also visible on the front cover of my diary today. Ladies and gentlemen, today they came up here and said we are Alice in the Wonderland and how we fell into the hole every time we made a fallacy. Ladies and gentlemen, if that is the case, their entire constructive today was like the London Bridge, falling down and down and down ever since their principal speaker came and started speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed this debate for the last 1.5 hours. Whether you agree with our definition of fear, whether you agree with their definition of fear, there's something that is common. Every time the side opposition today committed a fallacy, and if I, as a member of the proposition, lost a penny, I would have been more broke than Nirav Modi. And had I got one vote, every time we gave you a logical point today, I would have very easily surpassed Narendra Modi. Having said that, I hereby conclude my speech and my stance from my team's side, and I'm very, very proud to propose today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's amazing that the chairperson of the debate today is Surabhi Modi. So we have a lot of Modis in the room today, far more than we'll be comfortable with, one can say. So now I invite the fourth speaker, side opposition, Debarko Datta. We do hope you have a befitting reply. That will be the final speech from the participants. So please bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us. Thank you so much.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, the lead speaker of side proposition came up in his sum-up speech, and he said that we are scared of examinations. But Chairperson ma'am, there is a mistake. We are not scared of examinations. He is scared of examinations. I am not. And what is the simple reason for that? I study before an examination, and he does not. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the apparent mischaracterization of what fear actually is by side proposition. According to side proposition, and I quote, there is a 0.01% of fearing everything. So according to that logic, I should fear this very mic, because at any point of time this mic might malfunction, I might get a shock, and I might pass away at this very point. According to their logic, I should fear my very shoes, because my laces might open all out of a sudden, I might trip on them and again pass away on this very stage. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not what fear is. The fourth speaker came up here and showed his diary, so I can understand his obsession with animes, but for a second, Mr. Fourth Speaker, please step out of your sci-fi anime world and focus on reality. Understand that what do we actually fear? We fear something which we do not have control over. That is the reason today we are afraid of wild dogs in the street. However, we are not afraid of the dogs which are domesticated at our homes. Why? Because we have an apparent control over the domesticated dog's actions. Similarly, in the terms of artificial intelligence, we have control over the way in which we want to design artificial intelligence. I'm pretty sure that nobody would want to design a suicide trap for themselves by making artificial intelligence worse day by day. Now, I wonder how the third speaker knows that people use ChatGPT for making bombs. I was not aware of that. The thing that I was aware of was using ChatGPT to actually solve my JE questions. Understand that today, all side proposition has come here and done has a very big mischaracterization of what fear actually is. Understand that fear is something entirely different. That is the very reason today if we go to Google and search a list of phobias, we'll get a restricted list. We cannot fear anything and everything in front of us. Understand that we fear things which are not under our control. We fear an insect because we do not know how our interaction with that insect is going to be. However, we do not fear a rabbit because we know that no matter how deadly the rabbit might seem in your anime world, the rabbit is not going to cause any harm to me in real life. Today, if I'm put in a room with a stranger, I will be scared. However, today, if I'm put in a room with my teammates, I will not be afraid. Simple reason, I know my teammates. I know the way they behave, but I do not know the way a stranger behaves. And here is where artificial intelligence comes in. We as human beings have developed artificial intelligence with our very own hands. We know exactly how artificial intelligence works, and we are going to develop artificial intelligence in the very manner we decide to. And thus, there is no scope for fear. However, there is only a scope for advancement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, whether you agree with me or not, I would like to congratulate myself for reining in both the teams and trying to keep the yous and the yours away until the very end with the last and final speeches. And I think they all got carried away. So with that, the speakers on the stage shall rest, and I open the house for anyone who would like to share their thoughts on the topic and only on the topic. We will continue. Yes, you may come forward. Might I remind the audience that the rules shall apply. You will not address any speaker, and you will refer to them as speakers, and you shall address the chair at all times. So first you, and then I think there was a gentleman who wanted to come in as.
I hope I am audible. Good evening, Madam Chairperson and the House at large. I, Vatsala Kumar, stand here proudly supporting the side proposition. As the principal speaker of side opposition came here and said that the side proposition simply means that we should fear getting into the car. But the side proposition simply means that we should not fear getting into a car, but should rather fear getting into an illogically advanced and automatically driven car. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that observation. Yes, you may come up.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I apologize for the harsh voice. I was busy screaming for my team. But first of all, to the team present here on the stage, Inter-Martiniere Boys College, Kolkata, welcome to Inter-Martiniere College, Lucknow. Ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that Inter-Martiniere Kolkata has done very amazingly today, which I will admire them, and as a matter of fact, I have an admission to make. An admission that they were exceptional. They were exceptionally good in hiding every single fallacy in their debate, every single fallacy that they made in their own speeches with good oration, which is, well, a very good tactic. However, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that they also very conveniently did was to convince this very audience by hook or by crook, or, well, by hook and a doll, that their motion or their side of the argument stands. Ladies and gentlemen, what we need to understand is that fear and caution are two different things. However, they do go synonymously. Fear incites caution in a particular person. In the humanity, as is under question right now, humanity has an innate desire for achieving something. However, if that particular desire or that particular instinct will lead you into doing something that you might fear, obviously you will ensure caution towards it. You will ensure that you are exercising appropriate caution that goes with it so that you don't end up in a situation where you are in a burning car. Using the example that the lead speaker of side proposition himself used. Fear of COVID made humanity in general inject sanitizers in their veins. Why was that? Because humanity in general was fearful of the repercussions that might come as a matter of them getting infected with the COVID-19 virus. They imposed cautions on themselves just so they can mitigate from these particular needs and they can mitigate from these particular things that might happen to them. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I wish all the best to all the teams present here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do we have someone else? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the House. I, Nate Shaw of Team Calcutta, representing the football, basketball, and swimming team, am opposing the motion today. I would have been representing all four. However, they didn't want me to embarrass Team Lucknow any further than they did today themselves. According to side proposition's principal speaker, where no full stop exists, there exists fear. I believe that Team Lucknow therefore have full stops. If I may draw an analogy, consider Lucknow's performance today. I am confident enough to say, rather, I'm not scared enough to say, as Team Proposition clearly failed to understand they are synonymous. We Team Calcutta, and I think I speak for everyone here when I say, we don't believe in full stops. Fear us, just like you did in the morning, where I doubt Team Lucknow will even dare to appear next year, knowing the standard we've set, and as you will tomorrow, and every other time our names are mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, we have the final speech. Please try to keep it towards the topic. It is suddenly becoming a roasting session.
Members of the August House, initially the thought of addressing such a huge gathering had me quaking in my boots and I did not want to come on stage. However, hearing side propositions, arguments and their constructives, I was convinced that what they will say and what I will say, even though I'm a far less seasoned debater, I'll be sure to say I have more logic than the four of them that have come here and just spoken about stuff, about the constructives that make no sense when put together. Understand the fact that when I had the pleasure of listening to their arguments, I was waiting, it was like a suspense thriller with a big reveal. Turned out to be nothing more than a confused goldfish where each movement and each constructive was as less dysfunctional and as disjoint as what a goldfish movement is in the water. Understand the fact that when I saw the arguments, logic suddenly took my center stage and I knew that when I come up, I would speak more logic because understand the fact that what they are speaking is not at all coherent and what they're trying to say is something that is completely rebutted by their own speakers as has been proved by the side opposition time and time again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I was really glad that the judges had been requested into the other room for clouding their judgment. So at this juncture, I thank the audience, but before anything else, may we have a huge round of applause for our timekeepers. I know you all are tired, and the only thing keeping you away from your dinner is me, but you have to bear with me for just a few more moments. May I request the principal, Inter-Martiniere Lucknow, Mr. Everett, to please come and the principal, Inter-Martiniere Kolkata, to please present our judges with a token of appreciation for all their hard work. May I first invite on stage Dr. Lavi Mehrotra with a huge round of applause. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Aprajita Bansal. I'm sure the audience can do better than that. Judge for the evening, Mr. Hussain, may I please request you to come on the stage?
And of course, one more very special token gift to our chairperson, Dr. Surbhi Sahai, for making this such an amazing evening. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for this lovely lady.
Thank you so much. Before I announce the results, well done both teams. And it is my proud privilege to announce the results for today at the 77th Inter-Martiniere meet. Ladies and gentlemen, today's motion has been defeated. The winners are So yes, the winners are Rebuttal for boys Kolkata. And with that, I would like to also announce the best speaker for today, and that is Nikhilesh Mukherjee, Principal Speaker, Rebuttal Kolkata. Thank you so much. With this, we come to an end of a great session. We did have a lot of rabbits under the hat. I don't know how many fell and down the hole. So I had a great time today. Usually I have a lot to say, but all that had to be said has been said. With that, I declare the 77th Inter-Martiniere meet debate closed. Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen, and all the best to both the teams for the future.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Doctor, for your work. And thank you, participants. That is definitely what we want to see at the end of an event. Yeah, we'll have to balance that out with the next two events. All right, now, ladies and gents, we've done all the mushy stuff of wishing each other, but here comes the very important bit. We have a couple of shiny things there that need to be given away. So we'll be starting off first with our best speaker. I'll ask our principal to give this away, Mr. Gary Everett, since this is going to our extended family. All right, we have both our principals, very proud at this moment. prize for Best Speaker, this time going to the Calcutta School, Niklesh. Congratulations. Runners-up trophy, and don't worry, we'll make sure to polish it for you all next year, goes to Inter-Martiniere, Lucknow. And of course, the big shiny one which we did have, by the way, goes to Inter-Martiniere, Calcutta. Congratulations, gentlemen. Everyone, I now ask our principal, Mr. Gary Everett, to come and share a few words. This is his first year experiencing all of this. So I'm sure he had a very interesting experience. So sir, please do take it away.
So good evening to all of you. I think we had a really wonderful time listening to these speakers. The boys from Cal, you were amazing, and I think you deserve to win. So let's hear it for the Cal boys once again. Very well done. And the boys from Inter-Martiniere, Lucknow were equally good, and they gave their best. As long as you give your best, I think it was a good debating. So well done, boys from Inter-Martiniere, Lucknow. So, I believe if you're having a debate and having a competition, there's one team that has to win. And we should always appreciate and acknowledge the winners. And this year, the boys from Cal were really good and they deserve to win. At the same time, this experience is new for me. Okay, the cheering and hooting and things that, hi. I think there was one speaker left to speak. You didn't give him a fair chance, so he's right here. Thank you for coming. Okay. I think the topic for the debate was really very interesting. You can leave him alone, he's fine. As you must have heard, the Tatas and Birlas, the hotels of Tatas, you have animals like this roaming. And the love of the animals that we have in our campus, that's why you have animals like this, and we should respect them and give them their space. I'm not a very good debater, and especially with the topic with AI. But what I witnessed today was, when you talk about humanity and the fear of the advances in AI, what both the teams took up, I think they picked on the word fear. There were so many words to pick on. You could pick on AI, you could pick on the advances in AI. So I think that was a better word. When we say advances in AI, what we mean to say is AI is what we have made, and I think the speaker number 3 or 4, one of you explained it very well. So what we want AI to do, and if it's doing it, there's nothing to fear. But if we make something, if we make a machine, or we make a car, or we make a robot, and we program it in a good way, and that machine does not do what you have planned it to do, then the word advances come in. I think if my friends standing behind or sitting behind me caught on that word of advances, it was a very, very easy topic to win. If something is going wrong which you have not planned, and just a simple example for a robot or a car, you made a car, a driverless car, for example, one of the girls came and spoke up. And it's programmed so very well with all the equipments of AI. And if that car starts causing harm to you or accidents, definitely there's going to be fear. And then comes our great Darwin, who we got to go back and think about. If something that's going to cause you harm or going to cause you fear, you have to exist in this world. So if you want to exist in this world, that sense of fear will make you go on. You will go back and make the required corrections. When I was a young boy, we watched this movie, Terminator. I'm sure all of you must have watched it, the part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever happened. So that where humanity went wrong. I'm talking about the movie now. I don't know whether I'm right. But the corrections have to be made in things when machines start overtaking or start doing things what they are not programmed to do. So, once again, if that word was caught on, the advances in AI, I think the topic would be entirely different and people would have their arguments in a very, very different way. But nevertheless, the word that you caught is the word that you caught. Fear was the word and you did it well, and congratulations to the team that did well. I would take the honor to thank our judges, all the 3 judges who have come. I hope I get their names right. There's a Ma'am Malhotra, there's a Ma'am Mehta, there's, I forget your name, the gentleman? Mr. Sen. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us. And I also like to thank our chairperson, very, very strict with rules and regulations. And she made this debate happen in a very different way. I could see students respecting each other, and that's what's required in a debate. We cannot go on like our politicians in the Parliament House, but this house, which we witnessed today, was really good because one person also can make a difference. So let's hear it for our chairperson. Very well done, very well organized. Thanks you to all the participants who have come here, to all the children who are participating in this meet, to all the teachers, to the boys from La Martiniers who were there, and I'm sorry if I was stopping you from, making all those calls, because I'm not used to it. Maybe in a couple of months or years, Ma'am Arshita was saying you'll get used to all this. I hope I get used to it, but I'm not very sure whether I'll get used to it. Because debating is something different from a rugby game or a football game. But as she says, sir, I'll give you all the scripts and you have to learn the scripts and you have to start cheering with our children. I enjoyed every moment of this evening. Thanks to everyone that came here. I look forward, all of you, to join me for dinner on the principal's lawn. Thank you very much. Thanks to the departments who organized this event, the English department, Mr. Craig and his team. To the people who are backstage, the people who are on the lawn preparing the dinner, Thank you so very much to the entire La Martiniere family. I think it's a wonderful place to live in. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. We will begin moving out right now. There is a lovely dinner set up for all of us at the principal's lawn, right? So, but I will ask for the debating secretaries, principals of schools, and the team to just stay behind for 2 minutes for photographs. Otherwise, students, you know the general gentleman and lady thing. Let our guests move out first. Once they do, the Calcutta teams shall then move out, and then the Lucknow teams. All right? So thank you, everyone. It has been an amazing day, an amazing event, and I'm sure we are all going to go home much happier and much more full in our stomachs. So thank you, everyone. Principals, special guests, please do stay behind. Students, we'll help you all out in a second. Thank you, everyone.